All right, folks, it is the guy with the bow tie checking in with you live for another edition of Business of Benefits. I'm happy to have the blue-haired recruiter herself, Miss Madison Butler, here on Business of Benefits. How you doing, Madison?
Good. How are you?
Good. This is fun. We already got some comments coming in, but I appreciate you doing this. I know we had some issues with Professionally Black. The internet gods didn't want us to have you on there, so the internet wasn't working, but we got it to happen now. So for the people that have not seen your post, which is at this point, I feel like it's crazy to not have seen one of your posts at this point. But for people that haven't seen who you are and what you're doing with everything, let them know who you are and what you do.
Okay, so my name is Madison Butler. I guess most people would know me as the blue-haired recruiter. In real life, I'm a VP of people for a cocktail startup here in Austin, Texas, and then I consult on the side in things relations to talent, DEI, culture, how to build an inclusive culture from day one instead of thinking about it at Series B. In my spare time, I occasionally write some content that maybe stirs the pot a little bit on LinkedIn.
A little bit. That is an
A
understatement.
little bit.
No, but that's how I found you. And it's interesting that most of your content, if probably say 90% of it is just text. Like you don't do a lot of video and pictures, right?
Nope. Mostly because I'm great with writing, super technically challenged though, like can maybe put together a PowerPoint if you need me to, but like much past that, I'm not very useful.
Okay. But that's helpful though, because you hear this, videos away and video does have its place, but you've amassed a great following. I don't use Twitter. I know you're big on Twitter, but I mean, you made a great following on LinkedIn just from text posts.
I've only recently started engaging on Twitter, and that was because I kept getting banned from Facebook. So, but for stupid things, like I caught a Facebook ban because I said men are weird, and then I caught another Facebook ban because I called someone a homophobe, and I was like, okay, like where can I say things and not get in trouble?
Yeah.
Twitter doesn't care. So I recently started on my Twitter train, so it's still kind of new. I'm still like learning how it kind of like the best way to engage on Twitter, but turns out I can swear all I want and no one cares. It's great.
Yeah, I mean the presidents figured that out. So I mean Twitter is a good place to just say what you want. Yep. Kanye West as well, they just say what they want, so it seems to work there. But I love what you're doing with the LinkedIn place because a lot of people take your posts and say they're political, and I know that's a constant battle you get. You're talking about equality, civil rights, things like that, and they make it political. So why do you think it is that people take you mentioning things of like talking about racism and they make it political? Why do you think that's a thing right now?
Because our president is a racist. But I also think it's really hard to examine yourself and be like, oh my God, these things I've thought or felt for the last 20 years have been wrong. It is much easier to demonize the person talking about them. And so it's hard to demonize people by being like, oh, human rights are wrong. So they would rather say that my plight is political instead of owning what it actually is, which is just human decency. Like being a decent human doesn't really necessarily fall on a political side. I guess 2020 it certainly could, but in general, like I don't think that saying I'm Black is not a political statement because like there are Black people on every side of the spectrum, and it's like if I get killed at a traffic stop, guess what? They don't care about what political party I vote for. They don't know. Yep. So speaking of race isn't political because it doesn't actually matter because no matter what, I'm still Black, regardless of who I vote for.
Yeah, please give some reactions for that audience because I mean that's exactly what I said to one of your posts because somebody said something like, "You're part of the lefty radical movement. Why you feel this way?" And I was saying, "I'm just a human. I'm actually kind of purple. I'm not very liberal in some regards." And people took it as like, "Oh, it's a Black person. You got to be liberal." Like, no, we have differences just like you guys do. But it's just interesting that dichotomy. Say it again.
I get that a lot. Like yesterday I had a comment and so I had a post up yesterday or the day before where someone on LinkedIn was like, go be a lesbian somewhere else. And I was like, nah, I'm gonna do it right here. And I posted about it. And this girl commented and was like, this story is made up. It's a lie. And so I posted a screenshot and I was like, I'm sorry, did you say something? And she was like, typical leftist, a bully. And I was like, what? Like, you told me I lied. I showed you I didn't lie. None of that had to do with my political affiliation.
Right.
Okay.
This is why I'm glad I'm talking to you, because this is why I get in battles with people on your posts. I'm like, she's just saying the truth. It's just a real factor. She's posting information that's real, and it's just that's it. But the tea, you call it spilling the tea. So what made you decide to call your posting spilling the tea? Or
I
this
don't
is
know.
the tea?
I don't know, actually. So I think I said it once. So I've always like said like random little phrases at the ends of my posts. But when I originally did that, which was probably like a year ago, it like caught on. And so then I started doing like Tuesday and Thursday tea. And then I was like, oh man, I have way too much to say. I can't only post twice a week. Kind of became like a thing. And then I started using the hashtag to track my content. And so I used that hashtag and the I said what I said hashtag, mostly because I want people to know, like, you can argue with me all you want. You're welcome to do so. However, I very much said what I said. Like, I thought about the content before I posted it. I know this is how I feel, and you're welcome to battle your little heart out. However, I said what I said.
And to catch up with people saying what they said, we had Clarissa said thanks. Her face isn't showing up for some reason on here, but she said thanks for being on here. She threw some emojis on there as well. And she said, assist to stay busy. So she's busy. Good friend of mine, Misha Main. Pardon, Misha. I messed your last name up right there. Misha, she's going to be in something with me next week, but she said, you my Saturday listen king. I'm driving right now. So she's hearing a little bit in the car where she's driving. But I think this is important to have these conversations because LinkedIn, for a long time, I wasn't posting like black stuff or anything like that because LinkedIn was always like, don't be political, don't be racial was kind of a thing for a long time. I've been on the platform since 2010 and it was never that place. And I don't know when the switch flipped. I mean, it's definitely flipped this year, but maybe last year it started. So when you decided to have LinkedIn, I know you mentioned Twitter lets you say what you want, but how has your posting on LinkedIn helped your profession or helped your business or helped your acumen? How's that helped you out talking the way you're talking out here?
For sure. And it's actually really interesting. So this sounds weird, but like I know that my LinkedIn success is actually thanks to a white dude. But I interviewed with this VP, and when we were interviewing, I was like, hey, like my hair is blue. And he was like, I don't give a shit. And I was like, oh. So, but then he asked me, he was like, how many LinkedIn connections do you have? And I was like, I don't know, like 1,200. And he was like, well, why? Like, why do you only have 1,200? He was like, you're in the talent space. Why wouldn't you want to utilize your network to be able to just post a job and people come to you? And I had never really thought about it like that because I didn't think of LinkedIn like the same way I thought of Facebook. So I got the job. I started working with him. I started really paying attention to his content. And his content is very different because he is a white male, but he is a white male who addresses mental health, addresses addiction, addresses being able to be successful in the corporate space without a traditional background, like not having gone to an Ivy League or college at all. And like, he's just so real that I was like, okay, how can I do this? How can I like be as brave? And so I just started with like little blips of things. Like I would just post something and be like, ooh, is that too spicy? Like I'm going to post it. And my spice level originally was like not very spicy. But I like know the shift happened was last year. I posted something along like the way companies treat you when you leave is how they felt about you the whole time. And it was like the first post I had that like went like viral, and I was like, oh God, okay. So I can be spicy. Spicy is good. And I just started talking more about like my experiences as a Black woman navigating the tech space, navigating corporate America, navigating corporate America as a Black queer woman who's also super young, looks younger in real life. There's a lot of different things to unpack. And I realized that I had found this voice that not everyone else had found. So how could I be a voice for people who weren't here yet? But mostly so people in leadership roles who maybe are white, who aren't hearing this from people they work with, think about it for once. Like think about the way that we actually have to change ourselves to navigate. And so I've kind of just rolled with it ever since.
Yeah, I like that. And I think it brings an interesting point that the original reason I probably didn't post as much of that, because people get this weird thing if you start talking about Black things like, oh, it's just Black power all the time. And we're a race that kind of been put down so long that we have to do things like call each other king and queen and edify each other because everybody else hasn't done that. So as you're navigating this inclusion lifestyle, obviously you can talk about your experience because of who you are, but how do you kind of walk that line of like, I'm in this corporate culture that's mostly white males, let's face that's what the situation is. And I want to make sure my voice is heard, but I also don't want to create a situation where I'm reverse racist or something like that? How do you navigate that for yourself?
So I don't have that line anymore. So I basically made a promise to myself a couple years ago. I went to an interview and they were like, oh my God, we love you. We want to hire you. And then they were like, but, which is everyone's favorite word, but they're like, we need you to change your hair color, cover your tattoos, wear a skirt, like basically tone it down. They were like, our owner's very conservative. And I was like, he's not going to like me. And so that was the first time that I like had this revelation where we set boundaries in our personal lives, in our relationships, and our friendships. And work is just another extension of a relationship. Like we should be setting boundaries at work. And so I have now set this boundary for me that is, you have to take me at full proof. Like I'm not going to water myself down to make you comfortable. I'm happy to come in, be a badass, help make you money, push your revenue, protect your bottom line. However, you need to value me for like the badass Black woman that I am. This voice, I am not turning on my phone voice from 9 to 5 anymore. And I'm loud. I'm going to call you out on BS and things are wrong. And so for me, like I don't walk that line anymore because I present this person now when I interview, because these are the questions I'm asking in my interview and learning to interview right back. I think corporate has really brainwashed us to think that we should feel lucky to work at corporations, when in actuality, corporations should feel lucky to have us because we're working for someone else's dream. And so I want to make sure that if I'm working for someone else's dream, it's a person who I actually want their dreams to work out because they're a good person. And so these are the questions I'm asking. And, you know, for me, like even when I came to Source, when I chatted with Tim, our CEO originally, you know, we had conversations about like the amount of investor relations I would have and the face-to-face time. And I was like, that's fine. Like I can play the game. I went to boarding school, went to business school. And I was like, but on the flip side, like there are going to be some VCs who just don't like me.
Yeah.
And he was like, I would literally never take money from someone who didn't respect you. And so that was really important for me, was that I have a CEO who backs me as a person before he backs, you know, the money he needs or the money they want. Like me as a human is more important to him than what I can do for the business.
That's great to find that fit. So you basically said, this is who I am, just accept me as I am. And you found someone that worked with that versus trying to do the square peg in the round hole. You look for someone.
In my company before this, you know, I presented the same person in my interview as well. And, you know, there is that whole pet to threat thing where like you make them look interesting until you're scary. So it's something that I do have to watch out for. But I have been incredibly lucky to have the privilege to be able to have a voice and still do what I love and be good at what I do. But also be able to talk about like real stuff. I'm not like a warm and fuzzy, polish it and shine it so it feels good kind of lady. Like that's just not me. So I want to have real raw conversation, and I want to be at a company that embraces that.
Well, that's important to have those conversations. I mean, because the reason I want to put that professionally Black together was to just have conversation like, what's it like being a Black professional? And everyone has a different experience, just like a regular professional. But kind of what you mentioned, when we show up, the first thing they see is a Black person, and they want us to be a certain kind of way. But you've been very unapologetic about that in a helpful way. I've seen all kinds of people come to your defense, all different companies come to your defense. And it's a human thing. It's not so much like, oh, it's a Black woman, they help her out because she's had a hard time. They're going to be inhuman saying, hey, this isn't right. This is just a human thing. Like, just pay attention to, she has this view. That's how she feels. That's okay. And I'm sure you've gotten a lot of positive messages, but you get a ton of bad messages. So do the bad messages fuel you more, or the good messages that kind of like give you the pat on the back?
Honestly, I do this for two reasons. The Black women who reach out to me to be like, I've always wanted to say this and I couldn't. But on the flip side, for white men who message me and tell me that they never thought about things this way before, and they realize that the way they've thought about things for a very long time is wrong. Because all I want to do is help make people's work experience better. And like, unfortunately, that does start at the top. So you need buy-in from lots of white men who manage, who hire, who interview. Like they need to be able to unpack their own biases. And sometimes it's a hard conversation to start and to have. And so I want to be able to start those conversations, even if they never message me and it's just internally. Even if it's just something they start thinking about when they're interviewing and when they're talking to people of color and Black people. Like if I had to pick a word that like resonates through my like life, it'll be it's impact. And so all I want to do is to have some kind of impact on the way people think about things.
And this actually affects all people. I mean, I know we're focused on the black lens, but it's usually when somebody has an issue with a black person that translates to Asian, Hispanic, other. It's not just a black thing usually. So I feel like what you're doing enlightens the whole consciousness of everybody, because we see with Black Lives Matter, with all the protests, you see these police attacking some white people sometimes. They're just getting aggravated, like, you can't challenge my authority, and they have run people over that are Caucasian several times and hit them and things of that nature. So I think it's good to have these conversations, because we swept it under the rug for a long time and made it, like you said, shine it up and polish it. But as you're looking at the business acumen side of that, I mean, what you're doing, recruiting and training and development and everything, have you seen your views help the bottom line for businesses having this diversity and inclusion mindset?
Oh, for sure. And I mean, I think that no matter how you look at it, like no matter what, having different perspectives solves more problems. You solve problems the exact same way when you end up with a bunch of men who look the same all wearing the same Patagonia vest in different colors. Like, it solves nothing. And so one, it helps the bottom line because you're solving problems differently, but it also helps retention. Millennial retention is not very good right now, and a lot of it revolves around values. People are feeling like their values aren't matched within their organization, and so they leave. And I'm actually a huge supporter of that. Like, if you come to me and you've got a 6-month stint on your resume and you're like, hey, they made me feel like shit every day, my mental health was deteriorating, I left, I'm going to commend you for that, because I'm going to put your humanity before your job 100% of the time. And the same thing when you work with me, for me, whatever. It is so much more important to take care of you as a person than it is to take care of you as the corporate America robot that we're all supposed to transform into 5 days a week. Yeah. And so it is incredibly helpful to have a space where you can have these open and real conversations to be like, hey, I'm struggling. I need help. Things are hard. I mean, being Black, and now with Ahmaud Arbery, Breonna Taylor, George Floyd, all back to back, like, it is hard to be a functioning adult when you're so sad and so filled with anger, but like in the middle of a pandemic, so you don't actually feel like you can leave the house and do anything. It's important to be able to tell your leadership, like, I am struggling. Like, I am not functioning the same way I would on a normal Tuesday. Yeah. And so I think for me, at the companies I've worked for, being able to help retention is always my biggest, the thing that I want to help the most. Because one, I want people to stay because I want to help them develop into whoever it is they want to be professionally, personally. Like, that's what I'm here for. At the same time, like, we put so much money into onboarding people to just do it over and over and over and over and over again. You're like opening the window and just throwing your money outside. Yep. And so I think, and the thing is, it's because we just don't focus on the human side of this. And that's exactly what it is. This is people's livelihood. They're not metrics. They're not KPIs. They're not, a check mark on your diversity worksheet. Like, these are people with feelings and emotions and lives, and our lives inherently spill over into work.
Yeah, throw some reactions for that, people. Because, I mean, that's the biggest thing about this, is that these people spend so much time at the job. You kind of have to invest in mental health, because if you break a day down, you might work 8 hours, you sleep 8 hours, and you got 8 hours with your family. It's like if you do a regular day like that. And it's important to talk about those things. And to catch up with the audience real quick, we had Valentina. She said, I'm owning it. I promised myself to show up as me. So she's being herself, not letting anybody tell her what to do. And then we have Miss Sheila Gregg. She said, pet to threat. Wow. So she likes what I was saying there, pet to threat. And then Wendy Conrad, having different perspectives solves more problems. That's super smart. I mean, if you think about these other emerging countries, it's usually, or even tech companies. Tech companies have been famous for this. We see Google and Facebook and things like that, and we don't realize that those companies had people of all different, backgrounds help build them. But we see that for tech. Like, that's just tech. That's not for a cocktail place. That's not for a daycare. That's not for a restaurant. But as you being in your seat, you've seen it affect all industries, I'm sure, by now, right?
Oh, yeah, for sure. And I mean, I think especially the place that struggles is the startup world, because how many startup founders hire their friends and all their friends look like them, and they went to college and studied the same thing. And then it's like 3 years later and you're like, dang, we've got 30,000 in recurring revenue. What happened? Like, you only hired people exactly like you, so you can only serve a market that is very similar to you.
Yeah. And I'm thankful for my team of agents. I've actually wanted diversity. Like, I need someone Hispanic, I need somebody Black, I need someone white, like diverse, because we're serving all different kinds of customers and employees. We want to talk to all of them. Yep. But I thought about something as you spoke. There was a documentary I saw called Stone Ghost on MSNBC, and the interviewer, I forgot his name, but he interviews a guy that does reenactments for Civil War. And part of the white guy's response saying like, well, you get in touch with your history. And I don't know why people aren't over slavery by now. Like you said, we should be over it. And that phrase, when I heard that, I was like, be over it. I mean, we can't escape the thought of it because there's so many reminders all the time of what slavery was in the United States. It's been worldwide, but the reminders are constant in the U.S. with the statues and the storybooks. I mean, the textbooks. The textbooks don't talk about the positive things in the Black community. So as a young woman that's kind of coming of age and learning all these things, do you feel like there's any responsibility you have to kind of help the uneducated and kind of tell them what to read or point them places? Do you feel like it's an obligation we have because we just got this information to tell other people how to catch up?
So for me, I want people to do the work. Like, I think it's important to do the work. I'm happy to tell people what they need to be looking for, what they need to go research. However, like, it's like you can bring a horse to water, you can't make it drink. Right. And so I think as Black people, like, I don't know if it's necessarily our job to educate other people because we're trying so hard to take care of ourselves.
Yes.
And we're trying so hard to maintain our own, like, mental health, and, you know, internalized anti-Blackness is a thing. So I'm constantly trying to unpack that too. And so I'm constantly trying to unlearn and relearn things myself. I'm always happy to chat with people when they have a question or things like that. But in the grand scheme of, do I think it's our obligation? No. Like, I'm very much like a believer, you know, I think communities rely a lot on Black women to, like, do the work. And like, I'm happy to do the work, but, like, you got to pay this invoice. I have a fee. You are welcome to pay it. And I'm welcome to pay it. However, like, we can't just keep asking people to do labor for free because this is not just labor, it's emotional labor. And it's hard, exhausting. And, like, invoices, pay them. It's easy.
But that's an interesting thing too. These boards are being, so we see now these headlines of this company hired somebody to be in front of diversity. This person added this person for diversity and inclusion on their board. So you see a lot more hires happening. But I think you posted something about that. That's not the end all result because I feel like you're just sticking people to check a box. How long do you see that trend working? Say it again. You're hiring people for Black stock photos. Right. Like, how long do you think that trend keeps on going before people start realizing, like, oh, wait, we actually got to do the work?
I think the trend will go on as long as we keep hiring for these roles and then don't allow them to make decisions. Because as people get into the role and they're like, oh my God, I got hired for this role. And then 6 months later, they're like, oh my God, I'm not allowed to change anything. I'm just literally a stock photo to make people happy. They keep leaving. So you turn over. And so you just keep rehiring for the same role. And you keep seeing the same headline again. So-and-so hired, insert Black woman, insert Black man. And then you just repeat the cycle over and over. So until we start realizing that companies are not taking us seriously, they're not taking DEI seriously enough to actually make change. They want warm, fuzzy emails. They want warm, fuzzy decks for their board. They want warm, fuzzy everything. They don't want to do hard work. So until people are doing hard work, we're going to just repeat this trend ad nauseum. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then we had Wendy threw a comment up there about that. She said, let's see if they're still there in 6 to 12 months. So Wendy broke down the reality of it. Wendy's spilling the tea right now.
Exactly.
But that also, so me, and I gotta watch myself because I know tonight I'm gonna have a fight for you in a post. But as this happens, you've been calling out people and having people fired sometimes, and not necessarily purposely. I mean, there's some purpose to it, but you actually bring attention to if somebody's racist on your post, you'll go as far as to let the company know, right? To kind of call it out, I'm thinking.
I usually let other people do it. And I mean, mostly what I say is like, hey, you know, your employer can see this.
Right.
Like, you know, they can see it. With the only time that was different was I had this like wild rant from someone who was from Ernst & Young, and I tweeted it. And like Twitter just like went crazy. And again, I don't really understand how Twitter works, so I don't really know. But a lot of times other people do. I mean, you can tag companies on LinkedIn, so I don't know why I do this. And like when everyone asks me like, what is the next step? So companies have posted their Black stock photo, you know, thing on Instagram and their hashtag, and maybe they like threw some money at a charity. Like, what happens next? Fire? You're racist. Like, stop caring how much like money they make you or the quotas they hit or like how productive they are. Like, fire your racists. If you want to make a difference in Black and brown people's lives, fire your racists. Like, this has to be a no tolerance, no gray area kind of situation. Like, there is no room for your microaggressions and your macroaggressions and like your straight up like hate. And hate is not an opinion. It's not like I just feel differently. Opinions are like, I like pineapples on pizza. I don't like pineapples on pizza. That's an opinion. But saying my right to survive a traffic stop, not an opinion. My right to marry whoever I want to, not an opinion. Like, these are things that involve human rights, not like what you like to eat for dinner. Those are different things.
Yeah. I hate that we just politicize these human things. I mean, because I find myself getting very frustrated with the COVID-19 because people like you and I are hospitalized a lot more because of COVID-19. So I take it very seriously. At first, I was like, oh, it's the flu. I kind of went that route the very first couple weeks. I didn't take too much stock into it because I've studied deaths all the time of cancer, heart attacks, and all that. So as the time went on, I'm like, oh, wait, this affects us a lot more than them. And not them, just as everybody, but not non-Black people. And as I see that, and I see people not wearing masks and all that, it's a political thing. They're like, oh, you're just a lefty wearing a mask. Like, no, it's just human. I liken it to wearing a condom. I mean, I know you're lesbian, but as the men out there, you wear a condom so you don't get.
I like
Go
men.
ahead.
I like men too.
Okay, gotcha. So a condom's important. As you go out there into the world and you're gonna go have intercourse with somebody, a condom helps prevent STDs, which AIDS is a big one. And yes, you can live with AIDS, but you can also die with AIDS. So I put the face mask in that category. Like, I don't want to have any chances with that of possibly passing away from that. But in today's society, people politicize stuff so much. So as you're getting in these tips with people, how are you able to find a way to kind of unpoliticize things for people to help them see like this is just science, this is just human, or do you just kind of let them go?
I always just say like being Black isn't political. Like, it's not. Like, being queer is not political. Like, I didn't choose this life. I'm happy, but I didn't choose it. And it's like, none of that is political. Like, who I am as a human every day has nothing to do with like a political affiliation. And so, oftentimes I get with the queer thing, it's like, well, it's offensive to other people. Well, like, if you're offended, then it's your problem to take up with yourself and unpack yourself. You being uncomfortable is not my problem. That is a very much you problem. And I think that we don't take accountability for the things that make us uncomfortable. And that's why we end up in situations like this where people would rather say it's political than say like, oh, I'm bothered by this because I feel this way. They'd rather say I do this because I'm, a leftist or what have you. It makes them feel better. And
I got a long question here. I'm trying to chunk this down. I can't it'll cover the whole screen, so I can't do the whole thing. This is from, hold on, let me catch up. Who said it? That is from Sheila. Okay, so Sheila Lead. Compensation rates for actual contracted work can sometimes be set to make up for the time allocated for this free work. Seeing many enlightening Black women mention not receiving compensation for their efforts, especially related to bringing white people up to speed. Thoughts on platforms like Patreon?
Love a Patreon app. Love it. I don't use it. I keep getting told I should, but I live for things like that. Get your coins, get your bag. Get it.
There you go. So Patreon's a platform she likes. Wendy had a comment. I'm in Florida where they're having protests against wearing masks. Roll my eyes. Yes, it drives me crazy. People saying, and I want to ask you to weigh in on this. Just say, it's my right to not wear a mask. And I think about, you wear a seatbelt. That's a right put on you for public safety. You get car insurance. That's something you have to do. You pay taxes, or if you don't, you go to jail. There's these several things that are imposed on us already. So how do you feel about people that say wearing a mask or not wearing a mask is my right versus public health?
It gives me stress. And here's because here's the thing. Yes, you're wearing a mask to protect yourself, but more importantly, you're wearing a mask to protect other people because you could be asymptomatic. And so it's like, yes, you have the right to throw the punch until it hits my face. So yes, you have the right to not wear a mask. However, you do not have the right to spread communicable diseases.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Sure, don't wear one in your house, but like if you're going to be around other people, like just be a decent human and wear your mask. If small children can wear masks without being argumentative or annoying about it, like so can you, a grown adult. I can wear a mask. I've got asthma. I'm doing it. I'm living it. And if you don't want a mask, stay home. Like order. Right. You don't have to go out. There's literally nothing at this point in life that technology is everything that you have to leave the house. Like, just order it on Amazon.
My 2-year-old wears a mask most times, so if my 2-year-old can do it, it's totally possible.
Exactly.
And then Mr. Brian Melton, he said, nothing annoys me more in tech than stop marketing photos of Black people holding an iPad.
Wait, and they're always all laughing. Like, it's looking at on the iPad is so funny.
That's why I laugh. I can see the picture in my head.
Yep, every single time. Every single time. When I do use stock photos, because sometimes you have to, I specifically use like queer stock photos and some of the other ones that are out there that are not like that. They're of like people who are actually inclusive and diverse photos, because occasionally, like when I do a deck, I don't want to just like use photos of myself over and over. That seems narcissistic.
Right. And somebody else, Rose, put out there, don't have much sense. I have asthma and I wear a mask.
Yep.
So please, people, throw a mask. I mean, it sounds like everybody here is doing that, but tell a friend that doesn't. You know, it's funny. Everybody's an epidemiologist now, and they're like, the size of the virus is 0.1 nanometers, and the mask can only block this much. And I usually don't say anything to that, but to quell that idea, a virus travels on a molecule of something like spit, mucus, something. So that molecule of mucus or spit is bigger than whatever you're saying. So please, people, if you're going to try to argue facts, like read this, which like Madison does. You put facts behind things of information. So how much time are you spending on reading this information? Like when you get all these posts, they go viral pretty quickly. How much time are you spending on the response time for that, for people to understand growing an audience with text posting? Oh, you froze up. Uh-oh, tech issues. Hold on. I lost you, Madison. Hold on. Let's try this. Okay, she's coming back. Hold on, guys. That brand new internet set up at the house looks like it fell out. That's why we couldn't get her on Professionally Black. And we got some comments on here, too.
I'm back.
There we go.
I got kicked out now.
No, it's okay. Hey, somebody was like, ooh, report her. She's saying too much truth. But how much time do you spend? These posts get several thousand views pretty quickly and a lot of comments. So how much time are you spending on the response for people that are trying to build an audience?
Like, how much time do I spend actually creating my posts, or how much time do I spend like engaging with them? Engaging,
because I know that's the bigger part of the time equation.
Not that much. I'll go. I'm really not reading the comments is a great self-care tip. Don't. I really like post and like exit the chat unless I see some really wild stuff or I see something that's like very moving or inspirational. Then I'll kind of chime in and comment. But in general, like I don't spend a lot of time like digging through and engaging. I just post and I let people think about it how they want to, engage with it how they want to, start conversations how they want to. But I don't spend a whole lot of time engaging. And to be quite honest, I don't spend a whole lot of time curating my content either. I have the exact same method. I wake up in the morning. I think about what I'm going to post. I start writing my content like at 9:15 to post by like 9:27. So
okay.
I spend about 9 minutes writing it.
Well, see, the good thing, but you're good at writing. So I think that's important for people to capture that. Like, if you're not good at writing, you can't do that. It's like anything.
No.
If you're not good at basketball, you can't go out there. I'm going to go dunk on the first time on the court. Like, no, you got to warm up the dunk. You can't just do it.
Yeah, and I've been like that my whole life. Like I spent all of college writing papers the night before. So
yeah, so you know how to cram your thoughts very quickly. And then a good comment from Rose, she put out there, Atlanta and the foolishness and the power thing going on. So I don't know if you've seen, but the mayor of Atlanta is required to wear a face mask, but the governor of Georgia said nobody can do that. So there's like a turf war with the mayor and the governor about how to be safe with that. So Rose, I feel your pain. I'm in Ackworth, so I feel your pain. I understand that. And then Luke said, why are we even debating these issues? Why can't people just mind people's business instead of complaining about others' issues? We need to think about our behaviors, attitudes, and values. That's a good point, Luke.
I will say I don't feel like wearing a mask is like solely your business, though.
Right. Like it's a value. I mean, it got me when somebody said you can kill somebody else being asymptomatic. That's what got me like, oh, I don't want to be the reason I get a contact tracer call and said, hey, you talked to Bill at Kroger and Bill got COVID-19 and died and you didn't know you had it. Yeah. That's what got me.
Yep.
So I know this was in the mass conversation, it's important to do that. So as another point of this, what you're doing, you're working on recruiting and attracting employees to the company. So talk about your day job so people kind of understand what you guys do, just in case they're in the Texas area and looking for a cool company.
So my day job now is a little bit different because I kept the blue-haired recruiter despite not being a traditional recruiter anymore. I am hiring in sales, but it's East Coast, not Austin.
Okay.
In general, my day-to-day revolves around talent, professional development, putting out fires, compliance, HR things, the works. But in general, I do this because I want to see people thrive and be happy. And so I think oftentimes we're not super happy in our careers and our jobs because their values don't match our own. And that's, a whole conversation that I could have about value matching and what that looks like when you're in your job hunt. But I try very hard to make sure that I am very human with everyone I work with, and I'm setting aside time and making space for them to talk to me about the human issues they're having, not just their work ones.
Have you seen that as a recruiter? I mean, you're the front line kind of with not the recruiter, but the HR role. Have you seen people kind of lean into you more than their past HR people? Because I usually think of HR like get paperwork, check off forms, onboarding. It seems like you lean in a lot. So if you have people kind of almost be a therapist, or you're like a therapist to them because of the way you're so open with them in the HR role?
Well, so I have like my own qualms with like the term HR, because I think when I think of HR, I think of people who protect the business. And I think that ends up with a lot of things getting swept under the rug, from sexual harassment to racism to just like blatant mistreatment. And I don't view myself that way. Like, companies have legal teams to protect them. However, what we need to be doing is protecting our people and protecting their spaces and protecting their psychological safety. Like, all of these things, like, I feel like that's what I was born to do. And that's what I want to do. And so I very much refer to myself as a people operations person versus HR, because like, people is my business. I don't need to protect my business. We have lawyers and PR and all of these things. However, what I do need to be doing is making sure that my people feel safe every day.
That makes sense. And then as you're going through all this, I had a quick comment from somebody who said, Uncomfortable Conversations with a Black Man is a very helpful series. Any particular Black women that are recommended for addressing more female-centric topics in video format?
I'm like a big fangirl of Minda Harts. Like, big fangirl. Big fan.
All right, Minda Harts.
Yeah.
And then my queen jumped on here. Very engaging, Mr. Perry. Great line of questioning as usual. Thank you, Queen. She's upstairs watching the 2-year-old, so thank you for jumping on. And Marlon said team partial replay. Thank you, Marlon. I know you got the kids to deal with as well, and take care of them. Here we go. So we had a question for progressive thoughts on blind recruiting.
What?
This is a good question.
I hate it. Good question. I hate blind hiring. Because here's my thing. If you need to have blind hiring to hire people of diverse backgrounds, the gag is they still have to work there.
Yeah.
For people who wouldn't have hired them if they saw them. So it doesn't actually solve anything. Fixing your hiring process is not enough. Yes, it's awesome to have a diverse pipeline and to get diverse hires, but if you are not prepared to take care of those people and protect them, then you have no business hiring them. So, like, fix your problems at the organizational level, not the hiring level. Do not blind hire. Teach people why their biases are wrong. Accountability on the candidate. Yeah.
Giving them the facts. And that's the good thing about this, that everything you do is not just like you're just being an angry Black woman. Like, you back it up with, acumen and study. So I want people to understand that, because they might not show up on text all the time. They can see that you know what you're doing.
And I smile a lot for being so angry.
Right. But another thing I want to bring up, millennials get this bad rep, and with recruiting role and people role, millennials get a bad rep, like, oh, they're so entitled, they want to leave and do whatever they want and all these things. So to people that are trying to attract millennials to their business, what are a couple of insights you can give them, whether they're Black, white, Asian, Latino millennials? What are some insights from your seat as being a millennial and hiring people? What are some things you can share with them to help them better understand filling that seat, because they have to now?
So I think it's now millennials and Gen Z. And like, let me tell you, I'm so here for Gen Z and their confidence. And like, they're just like, if I could be born to another generation, I'd want to be a Gen Z. I think but I think it's like showing up for your people, but showing up as like a company that gives a shit about things other than profit. Like as a millennial myself, I want to work for a company that, yes, we make maybe a cool product, but what are we doing for the world around us? What are we doing for our communities? What are we doing for our people? How are we taking a stand for the things that are wrong in the world? And I think I'm not the only millennial that feels that way. This is, I think, the first time, or at least I feel like this generation is very intent on career security and not job security. So for me, all I ever want to know is that I can go be a badass at the next 5 companies and do the same thing I do now. I'm not going to stay at this company if you don't value me, because I know I can go to another one and do the same damn thing and do it well. And I think other people realize that. And so I don't have to work for a company that doesn't value me as a person. I don't have to. I don't stay there for 30 years because I'm going to get a pension. Like, it's not going to happen. And so I think companies need to realize that they're irreplaceable. They're not irreplaceable. They're very much replaceable. Like, you are a paycheck, and I need to be more than a paycheck. How are you developing me? How are you valuing me? How are you treating me on a daily basis?
It's funny you say that, because when we're doing benefits for small business, I always tell them, like, it can't be just a paycheck anymore. You can't offer people only a paycheck and expect them to stick around for several years, because pensions don't exist anymore. And you have to do something more, because like you said, they can just go somewhere else. And Danielle resonated with you. Danielle Thompson said yes. You got the yes from her. And Marlon said interesting take on blind hires. So Madison, this has been awesome. I know. I mentioned earlier, I don't see a lot of videos for you. Like, I just don't post the link. So I'm glad you decided to come on live with me. What's some parting words to leave people with? Because right now we're in 2 pandemics right now, and the one you're definitely most known for is the racial pandemic going on right now. So what are some parting words you can leave with the people to help them go into this weekend, go into the next few months, to help them with understanding what they can do in this pandemic, as well as how to mentally care for themselves?
Well, mentally care for yourself by blocking that person on Facebook that's never left your hometown but only shows up to tell you that all lives matter. Block them. Don't engage with them. It's okay to block people. My block hand is so strong, especially on Facebook. Like, I block people without regard. Like, I'm not going to argue about why my life matters. But on the flip side, I think it's really important to have a circle of people where you can just say you're tired or you're stressed or you're sad, instead of internalizing all of that. And I think a lot of being stuck at home has made us internalize the emotion instead of reaching out. And I think it's important to get those feelings out, however it feels appropriate for you. Internalizing emotion just ends up having it all come out in like one spurt later. And it's hard. Like, this is weird territory for everyone between the pandemic and being Black in America, and it's an election year. Like, there's a lot going on.
Yeah.
And I think it's just so important to take care of yourself and unplug and get offline and read a book and go outside and turn off the news. Turn off the news is like a big one for me.
Yeah. Please read a book. Please read a book or something, or read an ebook. You read something.
Listen to a book. Something.
Listen to a book. Something. And Wendy added standing ovation over here. So Wendy did a standing ovation for you. Daniel said, say that to my employer, please. So basically the fact that you can leave and go anywhere. And Steven said, pensions, what's that? Yeah, pensions were a thing that your dad got.
My dad does have one, yes.
Yeah, my father's military, so they had retirement and things like that. Melissa said agree, and Rose said we have to agree to trust God too much. So there's too much going on. Trust whatever you believe in, because there's a lot going on. You got to mentally decompress. So Madison, I'm glad we got to have this happen. I realize we're going to do another Professionally Black sometime in the future. A lot of people liked it, so we're going to do another one. So now that the internet gods are giving you back your access to the internet, I appreciate that you coming on so fast. And any sites you want to send people to? I know you got like 4 different things your hands in right now. So what are a few websites you want to send people to?
Well, if you need anything from me, feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'm always happy to help. I know I talk about invoices, but in general, I do like to help people. And I don't necessarily always charge an invoice. But if you need like a list of good books or websites or what have you, I am super happy to help. If you're looking for good books, I'm a really big fan of The Memo, also by Minda Harts, because I'm a big fan girl. So if you are looking for a good book or a good podcast, both of hers are great.
There you go. Good fan. Well, thank you folks for tuning in. We would catch you in another Business of Benefits. Oh, last thing she said, who is this saying this? This is, the comments are behind the stream here, so pardon me if I don't see the name. Most effective political activism activities. Ooh, so we're gonna get political here for a second. So what is the most effective political activism activity? There you go, vote.
Vote. Just vote. Please. And don't vote for Kanye West.
Yeah, wait. We're about to get out of here. Now we gotta go into that. Please do not write on your ballot Kanye West. I was a diehard Kanye West fan long ago, and I've had to let that go. He stole my rap career. My rap career is supposed to be his, or mine. His is supposed to be mine because I don't sell drugs when I rap and I produce. That was supposed to be me. He stole my career, so I was a big fan. But my wife gives me flack. You like that? You used to like that guy. Yes, I did.
Hey, we all grow. Don't. We all grow, and we all do. It's fine.
Please go vote, though, people. Vote in your primaries, your general election, local, everything. Vote, because that's what we're dealing with now. Is nobody reads and nobody votes. So thank you for sharing that, Queen. I know you're out in Texas, and it's the same issues all over the place that we all have to have our leaders be accountable.
I would like to add, I'm not from Texas, by the way. I live.
Well, no, you're in Texas. I know. Where are you from, actually?
I'm from Rhode Island.
Okay.
East Coast, Beast Coast, but I live here now.
Okay. Virginia's my home military kid, but yeah, I understand. Thank you guys. This has been fun, Madison. You guys catch us on the flip side. This will be on replay. Please tag someone that needs to understand more about the Black experience, the tea that Madison's spilling all the time and brewing, and just to see some good text posts. I'm telling you, they go crazy every time she posts one. So if you want to see some good, factual, insightful experiences from a Black woman that's also queer and that's also super smart and very intelligent, please follow her content and look into that. We will catch you guys.